Hey there, it's Kimberly here with Knit for Brains, and I'm so excited. I just finished my very first project on my Schacht rigid heddle loom, 20-inch rigid heddle loom. So I wanted to show you the project as it was going along, my finished project, and then kind of what I wish I did differently. So stay tuned. So as you can see here, I found this yarn that I absolutely loved. It was one skein, and I thought, you know what? I'm just going to keep it simple because I really wanted to learn how the loom worked. I wanted to kind of get my fingers in there. I didn't want to do anything complicated. It was a large samplet, if you will. So I started out with this yarn that you can see here, and the yarn had all the variegation in it. So I wanted to use the yarn for the warp as well as the weft, and I just let the yarn do what it was going to do. And you can see here that it had some really cool, it went from like this aqua blue all the way through transitioning out of into a very, very pale blue and then transitioning into the orange. So I literally let the yarn do what it wanted to do. Well, I got it started, and you can see I already screwed something up, how I had the whole thing threaded, and then how I missed one tiny hole.
Oh no.
Yes, it was a big oh no. But what I did was, and I learned this in my class with Chris Acton, Acting Creative, is I threaded it through, and then I have it just on a spindle over there, so it's got the tension. So hopefully that's going to work. But so far, I'm digging it. It's a little bit fiddly. It's different than the Ashford sample loom that I have, in that I can't seem to find a really good place for the heddle to sit, but it seems to be, I didn't release that enough. It seems to be getting a little bit better with some practice. This was a very bad throw. There we go. So I'm just going with the colors that I found. This was just one ball. One skein. It had the blues on the outsides, and then it goes to the lime greens and the orange. So I'm not messing with anything else but just this, and hoping that it's going to turn out really cool. But I'm kind of liking what I'm seeing so far. This is my end result, and I'm loving this. So it's small. Like I said, it's just kind of a sample. I started here, so I used the warp, starting with that really deep aqua blue, and I went all the way across, and I went into this really pale turquoisey blue-green color, right? And this is the same yarn going across with the warp and then with the weft. So it starts out really dark, and then it moved into the lighter. And then as you can see towards the end, we started bringing in some of these really cool orange colors, and then we got down to the deeper, darker oranges here at the bottom. What I did down here at the end is you can see the colors of the yarn that I started with in the warp. So you can see how it started out with this solid, deep aqua blue, if you will, and then we transitioned in to those little bit lighter colors and lighter till we went all the way to this really pale color. I loved it because it really gave me an opportunity to see just how this loom worked. I do love the loom. I absolutely love the loom. So I got the loom because, well, A, it was a really great price. And I've been looking at getting a rigid heddle loom. I like the rigid heddle, but the one I had, the Ashford sample, it didn't seem wide enough. It was really more for a sample, like if you were going to be doing a swatch to see how the colors worked out before you did the big project. I really just want to dive in and have a big project. So I needed something that was going to be wider. What I found was, because you can use the loom just by itself on a table, but you can also buy it with a stand. Looking back now, knowing what I know now, I think I would have bought the stand sooner. I ended up buying the stand, people. Not gonna lie. I had to buy the stand. I couldn't find it on sale. I saw it once on sale for a crazy, crazy killer deal. And by the time I was checking out, it was already gone. Somebody had bought it and it was out of the cart and it was gone. So I had to just splurge and spend the money on the loom, the trestle stand that I got. So I'm going to show you in a subsequent video what that looked like. And I'm actually going to do my next project using the loom stand, the trestle stand, with the loom and the whole 9 yards. The other thing that I ended up getting as well was the carrying bag. So the Schacht, it's a flip loom, which is really great. It just flips up onto itself. Even if you have a warp already on, even if you've already started wefting, you've already started your project, you can literally flip it up onto itself and it fits into this really great bag. This bag is actually large enough that I can put my other loom, my samplet loom, in there, as well as several of my heddles. So it actually holds quite a bit. That was also a really good purchase. So looking back, I'm really glad ultimately that I did buy the trestle stand and I did buy the case. I would recommend that you do that. I mean, I understand it can be expensive, but if you really want the full experience, what I was finding was when I was using the loom on a table, I kind of had to sit it back and I had to throw the shuttle across this way, mostly this arm. And I found that it really started giving me some grief up in my deltoid muscle, right up in here. And because it was sitting at a weird angle, the loom was sitting flat. So I'm excited with the trestle because it's going to be sitting up at an angle and I'm not going to have to be leaning over it quite as much. And then when I had to release the knobs to move more yarn through, I had to get up and move with the trestle. I think you just sit there, you release the knobs, and then it just kind of falls through. So I'm going to do a subsequent video to show you how much better it's going to be using a trestle. I know it's an investment, but honestly, I really want to be able to use this loom a lot. And in order to do that, I really felt like the investment was worth it. So, but do I love the Schacht rigid heddle loom? Yeah, I absolutely love it. This was just a plain weave. Like I said, I did nothing. Throwing the shuttle through was really simple. One thing I did notice that was a little bit odd for me, with my Ashford samplet loom, and you're moving your heddles up and down into the two positions, because I just used a single heddle, there is a notch in the loom that the heddle locks into. In the Schacht loom, it locks into the up position, but when you put it into the lower position, it just sits kind of like underneath. It wedges itself underneath. There was no cutout in the loom that locked the heddle up in place. I'm using a lot of hands here. And that was kind of hard for me to figure out. I watched a lot of YouTube videos and I was like, okay, I'm not understanding where this thing is supposed to go. So that was kind of a bummer. And it didn't really explain it in the instructions. It didn't explain it in any videos that I saw. And I just figured it out as I put it under, that as you push the heddle down and it goes under the loom, it locks itself into a place of tension underneath the loom. And that's basically how it works. I think when I move it up into the trestle stand and it's sitting up at more of an angle in front of me, I think that's going to be a more apparent feature. It just wasn't, when you're sitting down and you're putting it out in front of you on a table, you don't actually see it. And it was a little awkward and uncomfortable. But all in all, this was my first project. And like I said, this was just a yarn doing what the yarn is going to do. So I'm going to do another project and I'm going to show it to you with the trestle and using the case and the whole 9 yards. But my first project out of the chute Yeah, I'm super happy with my Schacht 20-inch rigid heddle loom. All right, well, that's all I've got for you right now. This is Kimberly with Knit for Brains, bringing you a little bit more weaving into this channel. So this whole playlist is going to be all about weaving and my experiences with weaving, not only with my floor loom, but also with my rigid heddle loom. I am in no way a professional. I'm just telling you right now, this is me learning alongside with you. So I'm just taking you on my journey on my weaving journey, as I learn more about the rigid heddle looms, the pin looms, the floor looms, and all the things. Thanks so much for watching. This is Kimberly with Knit for Brains, and if you've just joined us, I am so glad that you're here. We're still doing a whole bunch of knitting and a whole bunch of crochet, so make sure you check out those other playlists as well. But for now, thanks so much for watching. This is Kimberly with Knit for Brains, and as always, I'll see you soon. What in the frick? I'm just going to be talking to you about the Schacht rigid heddle loom.